Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're having a good day. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. This is episode 52. Today on the podcast, I had the delight and pleasure to have Amy Brese on the podcast. She is a third year Cambridge finalist, and we're basically talking about her sort of journey from her time in school to becoming a Cambridge third year graduate. Uh, just done her exams, and yes, very lucky to have her on the podcast today. I expect some great things from this young lady, and yeah, so please sit back, enjoy the show, have a fantastic day, and yeah, stay safe, stay well, and be awesome. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. This is episode 52. This is take 3 on this. Today, I have Amy Brese on the podcast, who is a third year finalist from Cambridge. She living that Oxbridge life. Hopefully, I have not messed this up. Hopefully, this is recording perfectly. And yes, Amy, hello once again for the
Hi,
third time.
Miwa. Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be able to do this as a free woman. I
Yes.
just finished my degree, so I can officially say I'm no longer a finalist, but hopefully very soon a holder of a Cambridge degree. So yeah, lots of things on my end I'm hoping to pursue and see where the next chapter takes me.
Well, congratulations to you for finally finishing your exams. Like, yes, I can only imagine what that sort of like ordeal. Well, ordeal, is that the right word? That challenge could only
Definitely
be.
challenge, yes.
Yeah, with this, I've got to say, like with regards to you and like, yeah, I've looked a little bit more into like what you've been doing along the way to get here. But oh my Lord, like, okay, you went to Latimer School, right?
I did indeed, yes.
Yeah, okay. Now you I was impressed when I saw you joining a number of different clubs and societies in like Cambridge. But yeah, this seems to be a running theme for you. Please tell me.
Yeah, do you know what? I've always really tried to make sure that I didn't leave school with just grades or just a
Mm,
degree. I really wanted an enriched experience. And that's actually something I have my siblings to thank for. So I'm the youngest of three. I have an older brother who's 6 years my senior and an older sister, 3 years my senior. Um, and although I've always kind of performed academically the best out of the three of us, they have always been really really adamant and very focused in expanding their horizons and really building perspective and skills outside of school. So I think I really got lucky being able to see the amazing things that my brother and my sister were doing and realizing that actually, counter to what we hear all the time, academics isn't everything. You
mm,
can be the smartest person in the room, but if you don't know how to talk to people, sometimes that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, I got really lucky having that perspective really early on in life, and
mm.
I went to great schools, which afforded me the opportunity to start up societies, get involved, and do different things. So I think that definitely gave me a good head start. I think more mentally than anything, just realizing that there's so much more to take from things and give
Hmm.
um, than just learning and education.
Right. So with going to like getting into excuse me, Cambridge, not Ox.
Cambridge, get it right.
Hey, look, I am on like I've got Oxbridge going through my head right now. So yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Look,
It happens a lot.
yeah, I have lived in Cambridge for like almost 2 years. Like yeah, so like I like look, when I was talking to a previous guest, name of Chucks, he lived in Kent, and I kept on saying Cambridge when he lived in Kent. So it's something in my
Okay.
head what goes on like that. So yes, Cambridge. Like now, with regards to like your sort of background with all the sort of different societies, from basically captaining the netball team, captaining the cricket team, basically leader of the Christian Union and co-founder of Young Economics Society.
Yeah.
Like Was this sort of like advantageous for you getting into Cambridge? Oh,
It's hard to tell because you know what they say that, you create your own luck. I definitely believe in that. I think for me, as opposed to it giving me the tangible writing on my CV to say I've led this and done this, it's definitely just smaller skills and more subtle things that we pay so much attention to that we don't realize. So little things like how do you engage with people when you first meet them?
mm,
And one thing that actually, if there's anyone out here listening who's thinking about applying to Oxbridge, one thing that they don't tell you when you're kind of preparing for these things is it's so important just to practice interview training.
mm,
So of course you need to get your content right and really make sure you've done your reading so you have an awareness of, sort of things that could come up and really defend your position, whatever subject it may be. But what I invested a lot of time in is little things like learning when to smile at the right time,
mm,
really trying to build some good rapport with your interviewer. And those are things that you can't necessarily pick up on like one day. It's things that you cultivate over time.
mm,
And I think that's what these leadership positions or just positions in general that I did in Latimer and so forth have afforded me. It's given me a training ground over time to just keep refining and refining, because ultimately, no matter where I go, it's going to be human beings at the center of it. So if you don't know how to relate and you don't know how to understand and empathize with humans, then no matter what you do, you will never really be able to reach your full potential because everything is centered around relationships.
mm.
So yeah, I think short answer, I guess,
No,
long
no, no.
story short, I think it has helped me, but maybe not in the way that people might think. Yeah.
Mm. So with that, like the whole, you had to go through the interview process to get that initial sort of push, well, to get in. So like after that, how long did it take you to find out? Was it just like, was like what, you know how it is when you're going through the whole UCAS system, you've
Mm,
got your first choice, your second choice, your
yeah.
third choice. What was your other choices, like if you didn't get into Cambridge, just out of interest?
So I had a very interesting journey. I should
Okay.
mention that I actually applied for Oxford first in year 12, normal time that people do, for PPE. And unfortunately, I got rejected, didn't even make it to interview stage. But
They're
for me, that
lost.
was,
They're lost.
well, thank you. Yeah, so for me, that was actually quite, a big rejection to deal with because I had really worked towards that. And my entire life, more or less up until that point, I'd really been extremely goal focused. I
Mhm.
think maybe even goal obsessed. I would definitely, looking back now, being able to say. So yeah, I got rejected, and I just decided, you know what, I want to take the time to really think about where I want to go. So I did have an insurance at that time, which is amazing university, which was also my insurance second time round, which was Warwick.
Ah,
Um, but I just didn't want to make any rash decisions because obviously I had Oxford in my mind, and that
yeah.
didn't happen. So yeah, I took a year out, and that ended up being the most amazing experience. I would so recommend gap years for anyone who's sitting on the fence. Yeah, so long story short, my insurance was Warwick for first and second year.
Mhm.
And I should also mention that, I applied for PPE first time around at Oxford. And then I applied for philosophy at Cambridge. And I think one of the real gifts that my gap year gave to me was really gave me the opportunity to just investigate what exactly I'm really interested and passionate about more specifically. Because even with PPE, for those who don't know, it's philosophy, politics, and economics. I've always been so interested in politics and economics. It's always been a like semi passions of mine. But what I was always most interested in within those subjects were the philosophical underpinnings of it.
Mm.
Less so. I mean, of course, I was interested, but not as much the practical applications. I was more the philosopher, literally asking the hard questions about, what's going
Why
on.
are we here?
The cliche, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that was a real gift, and I think just a huge lesson that I've learned, and I'm glad I learned it early on in life, is just accept. You don't even have to look at rejections as rejections. I guess it's quite a cliche thing, but it really brought it to life. Of it's redirection, and it really did redirect me to where I was meant to be. And it's just obviously I got a gap year out of it. and I embarked on that gap year not really knowing what was going to happen.
Mm.
But it ends up being such a pivotal moment in my development, personally, relationships, professionally, you know, all of these different things. So, you know, that's something that you can't necessarily like foresee, but sometimes you just got to trust the plan, trust the process.
Yeah, indeed. Like, yes, no, the process, I think what many people get confused when, like, you refer to the process, other people refer to it as the journey, or like basically just getting it done, is it's not like, if it's really something going for something on a high level, it's never easy and it's never short. And I think people like go, I'm doing this today, it shall come around tomorrow and everything be everything be rosy, and like you gotta go, yeah, it's not going to necessarily be like that. And knowing when to sort of pivot is another thing which you had to do.
Yeah.
But when you pivoted, you went straight into Cambridge. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a bad pivot to do, you know. Not just saying, just saying. So when you got in doing philosophy in Cambridge, like how, like, because I have been to university myself, Middlesex University. I was expecting a round of applause or something. It's like, just to hold it. It's like, but you know, well, you know what I mean? You know, it's like Middlesex University. Yeah, right.
You don't do this to me.
It's like, okay. Yeah, it wasn't quite Oxford or Cambridge or Warwick or Liverpool. You know what I mean?
I'm clapping. Any university degree is something.
Yes. So is it kind of like the regular, like, you know, how you got Freshers Week and stuff like that? Is it just like that, or is there subtle differences?
Well, okay. So firstly, a little disclaimer. Obviously, you're all aware that I haven't gone to any other universities, so I can't speak with all the authority in the world about how Cambridge is different. But there are definitely some very obvious ones. Cambridge is just, I don't think when people think of a typical university experience, maybe British university experience, I don't think Cambridge necessarily characterizes it perfectly for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's like one of the oldest universities, and they've definitely really stuck with their traditions all the way through. But Freshers Year, you get very quickly acquainted with some of the Cambridge quirks. So we have the obvious things or the well-known ones of what's called matriculation, which is the ceremony of officially being accepted into the university. So up until you've matriculated, which is a whole big thing, you have a grand dinner, it's a 5-course meal, you wear your gowns, you take pictures, you have to sign a book, so all of those formalities. So up until that point, you're not technically officially a member of the university, and they take that very, very seriously. And things like you can't even graduate with a degree unless you've been in halls for a certain period of time. So they have a lot of formalities and things that, of course, makes Cambridge what it is. And some of the great things as well was, I think it depends on who you are, but it's always, whichever way it goes, sometimes it's what you make the most out of it, right? So they have a college system. So I think Oxford has a college system, Durham has a college system, and I think Trinity College Dublin, possibly. I might have made that up.
When I hear Trinity College, like, that the only thing what comes to mind is I've been to Trinity College on the campus, not as a student, but university challenge. Yeah, I don't know how it breaks down. It's like, because
it's a very shared name. I know they should start making up new names, right?
Yeah, because
perhaps the Bresse College.
Yeah, you know what? Hi, maybe. Like, I see what you did there. You're just like,
Soon come.
It's like, I see you've got greater plans and desires to go out there. It's like, yeah. Like, this is the thing. I understand the college system because my lady, she did a MBA there. But not many people would understand, because when you say Cambridge, they think,
Cambridge.
it's just one thing.
But how
Yeah.
does that work? It's like a number of different places, isn't it?
Yeah, so the idea is quite literally a college, which Cambridge has 29 undergraduate colleges, I believe, and I might have gotten this bit wrong.
Yeah.
And the real two mature colleges, so mature colleges is for specifically for people 21 and over, age 21 and over, but they can be doing an undergraduate degree, so it's not necessarily postgraduate. Yeah, so the idea is that like each college is quite literally its own campus. You have the meals are provided there, that's where you have your accommodation. It's literally its own little hub or its own little society, not a society, only sphere of life. So they have their own student unions, just to give you a sense. So the way I like to think about it is like you have the USA and then you have all the states. The states kind of have their own local government laws, but then you also have obviously the federal law and government, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how University of Cambridge operates. The degree itself and all the academic things are run by the university, so Cambridge. But then individually organized things such as who supervises you. So that's another thing about Cambridge. You have one-to-one learning. We call them supervisions. And yeah, so college in a sense does make a big difference. I think that's personally one of the biggest lies I heard going into Cambridge is that it doesn't matter where you go. I think what they should say is no matter where you go, if you make the most out of it, hopefully you will enjoy it or you'll have good things to take away. But I would say that even amongst a lot of my friends at different colleges, our experience can differ quite radically because of where we are. Little things like, or big things I should say, where your college is centered, where it is in Cambridge is big because some of them are very, very far away, which means that even going into lectures is like like half an hour, 40-minute cycle, which is, for Cambridge standards, it is very long, which tells you how small Cambridge is, because in London, that would be nothing. Yeah, so things like that, and, obviously, like, there are some female colleges. I don't know to what extent people would say that makes a huge difference. So for the female friends I have there, because they can still interact outside, I'm not sure how much, but it's something. So yeah, if there's anyone who's going to apply, definitely do your research, figure out what's most important to you, and then go from there. Yeah. So it's an interesting setup, and I think it can be good for giving you a smaller unit of people to talk to and to meet and to be associated with, because obviously university is a very big place.
No, like, well, yes, I think Cambridge University has been going since 1209, so yeah.
Wow, you know better than me. How embarrassing.
Like it's a long-fared institution, which is like, churned out a number of different people. Like greatness is shrouded in many of the sort of graduates from there. And hey, you never know. Like, who knows? They might be naming streets and schools after a certain individual on this podcast.
Well, I try to keep it humble. I don't need. Maybe just one statue would be fine.
Oh, you think it's you? I was talking about myself. But still, it's like the closest I've get to graduating is actually just seeing people like go through. So yeah. So my God, like that's going to be a treat for you next April, I believe. Well, that's if like lockdown is off like fully.
I like your thinking, yeah.
Because like walking through the sort of town centre up into Kingston, like doing your whole like spouting out lots of Latin, and then passing through. So so good fun. So let me see. So what, like, with regards to Cambridge, what were some of the sort of key things you really sort of picked up from there, apart from your sort of education from there?
Ooh, that is a very weighty question, Mia. It's a weighty question because I picked so much from Cambridge. I think most definitely the biggest thing Cambridge has taught me, which I won't necessarily say Cambridge was the first teacher in this, because I went to Latimer, which is a grammar school in Edmonton. So going to Cambridge, I was very aware that, it's not quite up to the levels of representation that we would expect as, some other universities are. This is a very widely discussed thing. Nothing new really to say on that.
Mm.
But I think one thing that we don't necessarily see or hear much about is how that really translates into the everyday experience. And it's not just the fact that you're at a university with low representation of Black people. Obviously, as a Black person, that's where I'm coming from right now.
Yeah.
Because obviously there are a lot of other universities that are similar to Cambridge in terms of kind of representation. But the difference I think with Cambridge is that because of its reputation and all the things it has going for them, people feel like the stakes are higher and that we should do a better job, which I understand. But in terms of my experience, I think it was the first time, like being in London, where you're so privileged to have every walk of life around you all the time. Although my secondary school, wasn't the most mixed, it was in some ways, no, I wouldn't say as extreme as Cambridge, but it was a bit of a microcosm of Cambridge in terms of representation. Yeah, so I think being in London, I was so used to seeing every type of person that you get so comfortable and you forget that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily look like that. And then what that afforded me, of course, was a comfort and, an ability to talk to different types of people and not necessarily get so confronted with stereotypes upon first meeting them. Obviously, we all have unconscious bias. I'm not trying to say that I'm perfect in a sort of way, but London does help you. If you're really making an intentional decision to mix. So going to Cambridge, you meet people who it's very clear that they have come from backgrounds that have only really looked like them. And sometimes that really came through with the way that people would interact with me. And my mum has always taught me, and my parents have always taught me, you need to pick your battles. Not that everything was like, let's fight over it. But sometimes there'll be little things like, it's just clear ignorance. And, I've tried to really practice empathy in my life and understand that, what, Amy, if you were from where they were from, it's very likely that I would say what they said to me, or I would look at the way they looked at me. So, yeah, I've built a lot of patience. I've built a lot of patience, I would say. And I think this has been helpful for me because, one, you grow more understanding. It's really quick to respond, and it's like much harder to try to understand. And I think that's really helped me going forward because I don't really know where the world is going to take me. I don't know what my surroundings are going to look like. I do know it's probably quite likely that I'm going to be probably one of my own kind in a room at a certain time, given the way that certain spaces look quite white at the moment and the things that I want to do and achieve. So I think now that I kind of have this mentality of, firstly, pick who you surround yourself with. That's important. Keep your close circle really tight. And your close circle is a very privileged space that you shouldn't just give to anyone. And I take that very, very, very seriously in my life. So those people who are closest to me are there because I trust them, because they have really amazing traits. I learn from them. Obviously, we have fun. And I think once you have that close circle and you have that net exchange of give and take, then I have more patience, I have more things to give. And I found that points in my life that I struggled most is because I didn't have, for reasons mostly to blame myself, because I always had great people around me, but I wasn't relying on them enough. So I found that I was always in deficit, you're giving more than you take. And I think one of the biggest lessons I found, being at Cambridge is that, growing up is not about becoming more independent. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about becoming a lot more dependent on the people around you and realizing that you cannot do everything on your own. And even the best people in the world, no one did it on their own, like counter to however they portrayed it. And once you get really, really serious about that, then you realize you can expand yourself so much more if you just let more people in, obviously the right type of people, and you really like capitalize on the great things that people have to offer. So yeah, Cambridge has made me a lot more. I think I've always been open, but it's made me a lot more open in that respect. It's given me a whole lot of patience, Miwa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. There's no lie about that. I think it's a challenge for anyone, but I think Black community in Cambridge can definitely vouch for the fact that there are different hurdles that we have to overcome, but it can be overcome and it has been overcome. So.
Yeah, no, like this is the thing. My time living in Cambridge, the city / town, like it is one of the things as a Londoner, which was quite trippy for me when I first got there, was the actual size of the place. It was just like you've gone from like London, where you like okay. I would say Cambridge is most of the equivalent of a borough of London, like maybe 2 at a push, and you can like literally walk across town in half a day. And it was just like, right, it's smaller. Yes, there isn't a large like Black population, so it was a case of adjusting to that. And I was doing that from the prospect of a townie, if you get what I mean. Like you've heard the term gap and is it Ghanaian town? Like the sort of
something like that. You know, you're probably better than this than me. So,
Ghanaian town. So it's like I was like sort of in that sort of town situation, but I was kind of drawn into it, like that little bit of the world of it, because my lady was going to she was at Pembroke, then basically studying at Judd Business School. So it was like I sort of had that sort of touch of both sides, but I can understand where you're coming from with a lot of the things you say about the sort of Cambridge environment, just because it is smaller and it is not as diverse as as what we're used to most probably previously. Oh, Amy, you still there? I think you're frozen. I don't know what happened there.
Yes, hello, can you hear me? See me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
Have you managed to solve me first? Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't know what happened. It just it seemed to go through a little bit of an emotional time and crashed out on me.
It was freezing a little bit, and then I was like, oh dear, I hope it doesn't. But technical difficulties. What's a podcast without a couple technical difficulties?
Well, you know what, I'm surprised it's going on for this long at this present time. The number of misstarts and starts here. Yeah, I never normally have these issues, Amy.
Are you trying to say it's me, Miwa? What are you trying to say?
No, I wouldn't dare. Sort of, I'll find out where this has changed, and I'll make some edits there. But nevertheless,
okay.
I was basically saying, with regards to Cambridge and the differences between London and Cambridge, it's quite noticeable from size, sort of population diversity. It's it's a, how can I say, Cambridge to me, it's a fun place, but it sometimes is a weird place at the same time. So it's it was a learning curve for myself, and which I would say as time went on, I got used to it. And if it wasn't down to one or two circumstances, I may still have been here today. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's interesting because I can't imagine what it's like living in Cambridge as a resident, as an actual Cambridge civilian, I suppose. Just because Cambridge is so, I should say, whenever I'm talking about Cambridge, I'm talking about the city of Cambridge, because Cambridgeshire is much bigger and extends much further. But Cambridge itself the city centre is extremely small. But it's so dominated by the university that you wonder to what extent Cambridge is a city. I've once heard people say that Cambridge is a university which happens to have a city in the middle, and people often say Oxford that it's a city that actually has a university because Oxford is bigger and it's not as concentrated as Cambridge is. So I wonder what that is like for the residents of Cambridge. I do wonder, because it is everywhere you go, you see students. 8:55 any day of the week. Most of the time, like on a Monday, when people start the week very productive and very focused, and that kind of tailors off as time goes on. It's crazy. You just see, all you see is cyclists everywhere. And
Yes.
you know, you're more likely to be hit by a cyclist in Cambridge than anything else, really.
Oh, yes, that's always happened to me a few times.
Really? I'm so sorry.
It's like, huh, oh God. It's like, yeah. So yeah, no, got to say, yeah, no, but Cambridge, crazy. It's a crazy town. I like it, but I like it. Yeah, got to say, yeah, no, but definitely. But yes, sort of drifting off there, but let me drift back. Yeah. So with yourself, like your time at Cambridge, like, okay, like apart from the like studies, you've, my God, like, okay, you were the co-president of the Digital Society, is that right?
Delight. Delight.
Delight
Yeah.
Society, excuse me, I need glasses, but yeah, the Delight Society, what is that? Bye.
So Delight was a fantastic society that started a couple years before I joined, which was a women's, we don't like to label it Christian group, because sometimes if you say that, people think it's only for Christians, but it was a women's group focused on Christian discussion and fellowship. And that was, for me, was such an amazing family that I found in first year, just as a member. So I joined in first year as a member. And it gave me such a great place to just, you know, me being Christian has been the biggest part of my personality, the biggest part of who I am. And so finding likewise other people who were, you know, either Christians themselves, or, you know, interested in it, or wanting to talk about kind of some of the challenges you have as a Christian woman in Cambridge, or just as a student, and those sort of things were so amazing. Gave me a real great culture and family to insert myself in and to feel a part of, when, you know, beginning of university can be really rough. So I'm really lucky that I found it as early as I did. So I stuck through it first year, and then second year I had the opportunity to lead, and that was really great. I think whenever you take on, having been a part of the society first and then going into leadership, firstly, it gives you such a different perspective on everything. You really start to think clearly about what is it that we wanted out of, you know, that society. What did we want to give to those people? What did we want to share? And obviously they were all my friends, really, really close friends, which was really nice. So that was a real blessing. I'm really happy that I managed to discover Delight and was able to add something and take away as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's charming. Liking that. Yeah, no. Like, this is the thing. I'm a Christian lad myself, but like, I'd say like everyone needs something what can give them a little bit of extra faith, either in oneself or faith in the direction they're taking, because it is so, people underestimate how hard it can be sometimes when you're like going forward. And when you have a lack of faith or like belief in yourself, that's when things quite often go off the rails. That's when like the hard times come, and like the old saying of like falling down 7, getting up 8 comes into play. But if you don't have that sort of faith or belief backing you up, like, fall down 7, and it's like you won't get up at all, and it will stop you like achieving those sort of goals and dreams, which makes it harder, so much harder. But
100%. I've always thought that, you know, I'm a big believer of everybody has a God. It's just depends on what it is, you know. You may not believe in God himself, but everyone has something that they put their faith in. And for me, early in life, I knew that I couldn't be my own talents and my own self, because again, it's so fallible, it's so fickle. These things can be given and taken away so quickly. And more than that, I just never really wanted to be defined by my grades or what I'm doing. but it was more just in terms of, you know, the beliefs and things I stand for. And yeah, and that was a real, it's been a real journey, my Christian journey in Cambridge. Been a lot of trials, a lot of tests, but if you look at anyone in the Bible, a lot of King David is the one I always love to look at. No one became great without having any of that. And that's just really a fact of life, really. It's how you respond and what you do about those challenges that, in a sense, really make you who you are.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, like basically, speakers like, okay, TEDx, Cambridge. Yeah, how? Okay, like from what I can see, you kind of got there and you like sort of like motored your way up to like president. Like yeah, when you say TEDx, is that like the TEDx or is that just like something Cambridge came up with? Or
So TED
yeah,
is the original brand. The way you should think about it is kind of like a franchise. So you have the original TED, the big TED in America, which they have the big guests of Bill Gates and, you know, all the actors and the scientists, the big one. But then they have, you know, they've cultivated an amazing platform called TEDx, which is independently organized TED conferences. So they have loads across the world. People are starting their own, and there's some really strong and established ones. So in the UK, some of the really big ones are TEDx Exeter, very big, TEDx Covent Garden Women. And actually, I was fortunate to have some mentors from them. So a mentor from TEDx Covent Garden Women, because I was really fortunate in whilst I was still a speakers team member, so I wasn't even president at the time. I was able to accompany the then president to what was like a TEDx organizers conference. So all over the country, TEDx organizers or presidents came together just to talk and share ideas and to kind of share tips and cheat codes a bit about how to really make the most out of the TEDx culture and family, really. Yeah, so that was really great. And I think one of the battles you have with something like TEDx is people recognize it instantly because it's TED. But like similar to the way you asked me, people have the expectation that it's the typical big TED they see on YouTube with, again, Bill Gates and so forth. So it's like, how do you balance that already having an established brand, but trying to bring a whole unique perspective? Because what you can't do is try and emulate TED itself, because again, we don't have the resources to get, you know, those sort of people, and it's going for something different.
Yeah.
But it's also realizing that there is something so important and something so amazing that can be taken from smaller communities. So TEDxCambridgeUniversity, we really tried to capitalize on the amazing talent and academics and learners and thinkers that we had around us, and try to tailor that to our audience. Most of our audience were like, we had a lot of postgrads. I don't know what it is about postgraduates. Maybe they like to think more. Probably, I don't know, this is a bit of a cliche or assumption, but maybe sometimes they have slightly more time to attend things, whereas undergraduate life can be so, that makes sense. But also we just had people from the town, and I think it was really nice to be able to get local talent and upcoming thinkers, and obviously Cambridge has a lot of those, and really just give them a really great platform to share ideas worth spreading, which is TED's slogan. Yeah, so there was a lot of really great challenges. I learned so much. Probably the leadership role, one of the leadership roles I've definitely learned the most in. Yeah, I think it was just the fact there was also TEDx Cambridge University has such a big team, so there was 30 of us. We had 6 teams, 7 teams. We had 6 or 7. We kind of merged 2, but didn't merge 2. So I think for me it was the leadership of people and of vision, whilst also juggling so much going on at any one time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. Yeah, it's like, I mean, just getting a degree from Cambridge isn't challenge enough. It's, what I mean? It's like,
Always
okay.
create ways to make your life more difficult. Always.
Yeah, no, like this is the thing. And then basically surrounding yourself with people like the great and the good, what's come through the TEDx Cambridge like program as well.
Yeah.
Who was one of the, like, who were some of the like sort of more inspiring speakers to yourself that you saw there?
Okay, so I have so many to pick from because, I was on the committee before I became president. So unfortunately though, I should mention, COVID came along at the exactly perfect time. So we didn't actually get to put on, we had to cancel our conference 2 days before it was meant to happen. And that's one of the reasons I actually say that TEDx Cambridge was one of the biggest teachers for me, because I've never really had to deal with a case of something quite literally not going to plan at all. It's always been, difficult things that arise here and there, but not to the extent of we actually have to cancel this conference. So, I mean, to answer your question about one that has inspired me the most, I hope my speakers aren't listening to me right now. I think,
like put it this way, I'm not the one who's going to be in trouble right now. Go for it. I'm sure they'll understand. I'm sure they'll understand.
I'd have to say probably we had a speaker in my first year of TEDx Cambridge. So whilst I was a speakers officer, her name's Tiara. She's a founder of a fantastic, amazing organization called Solidarity, which raises funds for kind of legal aid for refugees, which is something we don't think a lot about. We always think about food and clothes, and that's actually something she spoke about in her talk, and saying how people think about food and clothes because they're important, but they meet a short-term need, and it has to keep going and keep going and keep going. But actually what they need is a long-term solution, and often that's to do about, obviously legal status sitting in the country, and those battles are actually a lot more difficult than people would think. And she spoke about the language barriers. Like, even that is huge, because when they're sitting in, they have to recount all the details of the trauma they've gone through, which in itself, in your own language, is so hard. And for those people who, they have, what's the word? They have translators, and how the translations happen. And a lot of this is a lot more than what you say. It's the way that they look at you. What do they think about your situation? Do they think you've really had a hard time? Yeah, so I think that for me was definitely very inspiring, because of the way that it opened my eyes about looking more centrally to the root issue when we were trying to deal with very difficult problems. It's not just about the most essential things of keeping them alive, but it's also thinking about how can we enrich their life to a point where we won't even need charity donations for food, because they will be in a place where they can sustain themselves. Yeah, and obviously she's a fantastic person, so and doing a fantastic thing. So that obviously really helps. Yeah.
Excellent. So we've basically been around these fantastic people. What is like, how do you think that's going to affect you going forward? Do you think it's a case of like, is it going to be business? Is it going to be politics? What do you think your next step might be?
You're asking the big questions here, Miwa, but I like it. So I think what I should mention is, when I got rejected from Oxford, it was such a pivotal moment in my life, because it was the first time I'd worked, well, I'd always worked incredibly hard for everything, but it's the first time I'd worked so hard for something and not gotten it. And that set me off in a trend of realizing that I should be the creator of my plans and the leader of my plans. My plans should not lead me. And that's what it was doing. Since then, I have really tried to import that a bit more strongly into my mentality, and being more responsive to things that I learn and things that I see. So my long-term goal has always been business. I think that's always been my attraction. I just love the dynamics of it. I love the way that it is affected by so much. I love the freedom, but more importantly, as someone who's always been about how can I make change? How can I contribute something to the world, to the environment, to people? I love that business really is where the power holds. I mean, politics, of course, is the cliche, and politics is so important. But in any state, any country, you see that the big stakeholders are the businessmen and women, the people who run the corporations, the people who are providing jobs, people who are providing goods and services. And I think I did consider politics for a really long time. But then I thought,
PPE.
yeah, the cliche.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're really just exposing me out here, Miwa, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm not here to expose anyone. I pay attention to some things what go on in the world, and when it comes to sort of like anyone who's considering politics and is going to Oxbridge, is definitely the gateway.
And then, you know what, I'm not going to rule off politics. I could see that coming into play potentially some point in my life. But I only reason that I was so fixated on politics at the time was merely because I thought that was the most effective way to make change. Now I'm starting to realize that change is not something that has to happen one-dimensionally. It's obviously different spheres, different people in different areas coming together. It can never really happen in one avenue. And so as opposed to me cornering myself and saying, okay, I want to make change, I must go into politics, I tried to completely revamp my process and say, okay, I want to make change. What am I good at? Where can I best place my gifts? And how can I harness that to make change? And my skills, my passions, I think have always aligned with being in the business sphere. Don't know where that is, what that will look like, which really excites me actually. Like there's a point where uncertainty used to really paralyze me. But now I'm realizing that all the times in my life when I was most uncertain was when I learned the most and grew the most, because I was most open to learning and more receptive to what was going on. So long story short, my plan is short term, I'm just finished university.
Yep.
I have lots and lots of skills gaps that I want to close up. So I have intentions my first intention was to take a year out and travel whilst trying to do that. But COVID said no.
Well, COVID definitely has given more or less everyone a year out. It's like,
yeah, I know, right?
Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to make this happen? No.
But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, this is nothing compared to anything else going on. So it's a sacrifice I'll very happily take. So I think the plan was really, in the short run, just to really upskill myself. I think whenever I have some amazing mentors in various different industries, and whenever I speak to them, one thing they all have in common is what made them great and got them to the place was them being very realistic about what they weren't good at, and just really trying to bite the bullet to be good enough. And being good enough doesn't mean being the best. It just means good enough to get you to where you need to be. So as opposed to running from my weaknesses, my plan is to really just confront them head on, start from the beginning if I need to, upskill myself, and then see where I am at that point. So what I'm basically trying to do is armor myself in the best place possible, best way possible. Cambridge was part of that plan, and that's definitely provided me with some skills and experiences. But now it's the next step, and then once I think I've kind of gotten the minimum skills that I really need to go into business, then I will do that.
So when you say go into business, is that you setting up your own company, or you're going to work for someone else?
Yeah, so long term, I definitely want to start up my own company. You know, I've been playing around with lots of different ideas. My passion has always been about how I can go back. From Ghana originally.
Okay.
I say go back. I really was born here, but in my mind, my heart has always been there. So it's just to really go back home to Ghana and more broadly in Africa, and really just start to really invest, because we have so many bright people, we have such resources, but at the moment we just don't have right local leaders. We have some great national leaders, but the right local leaders to really implement that from the grassroots up. Yeah, so I want to be part of the amazing people who are all going back and taking the skills that they've learned and reinvesting it. So
yeah, I've got to say, yeah, Africa 2030. Yes, things are going to start moving
yeah.
there. Trust me, trust me.
It's
Yeah.
really great that I'm saying all this now, because it's keeping me accountable. I'm like, Amy, don't say it, but I said it, you know.
No, just see me come out of a crowd, go, look, I've got a list here, I've got a transcript.
Viewers is going to be around the corner, just looking at me like, Amy, you said this, you know.
Yeah, you said this. What? Put it up on the screen. Look at it, everyone. Like, this is the thing. I have no doubt in my mind you will like go for these things and excel. And whatever sort of key skills you're most ready looking to like patch up, fill, or like basically get stronger. I like, come on now, just talking to you, yeah, you got the drive and the ambition to do that. Like I'm not too sure if it's going to be business first, then politics, or politics will come in. Like, I think right now, your world is, well, everyone's world is in a state of flux, but yeah, you're out in there, just like finished your final exams, and yeah, there's a whole world of excitement on the horizon for you.
Thank you so much, Miwa. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. And I think so you should be, because look, even though like the world is going to go through a little bit of a hard time, like maybe for the next year or so, like if COVID wasn't hard enough already, economically speaking, I would still say, yeah, people like yourself, yeah, stay focused, like keep pushing every step forward, and yeah, you'll come out on top. And basically help lead a whole bunch of other people as well. Like, yeah. But like, this is the thing, what I got to say is, yeah, like, your parents must be very proud of like the achievements and efforts you like put in. And look, anyone who knows you must be very proud of you as well. And yeah, like, keep kicking ass. That's what I say. Keep kicking ass. And like,
thank you so much, Miwa. Yeah, I think it's like the more I grow up and the more I come up, so to speak, you realize that like my efforts are just a part of some much bigger network, and so a lot of my achievements, I don't even feel I can say it's all me. It's the people who I've been with, my family. Oh my goodness, my family. Obviously, first and foremost, God. So hopefully, when any other speeches come in the future, you'll hear me continue to thank all those people, and obviously God.
Excellent. Yeah, I would like, would you be able to tell people how they would find you, like social medias and stuff like that?
Yes, of course. So you can, I'm not sure where my career focused people are listening, but obviously you can find me on LinkedIn, Amy Brese, you've got my name. I think that's probably the most relevant one. I used to be on Twitter, but kind of took a break because it wasn't really the one for me. But I guess get in touch with me on LinkedIn and we can always take it from there. So
excellent, no problem. Yes, by all means, anyone out there who's looking for a young up and comer, a leader for the next generation, I think yes, this young lady will definitely be there in the trenches. But yeah, Amy, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming on today. It has been exceptional. It's been enlightening.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mia. It was a great opportunity to talk about my reflections and think about next steps. So really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. And
thank you.
No problem. And I'd like to say thank you, my friends, my life warriors who are still listening to the podcast right now. I hope you have a great day. I hope you are well. I hope you are safe. And all I've got to say is be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this life and then some. Thank you very much, guys. And yeah, peace. Here we go.